living La Vida low carb. This show is changing lives. We talking about your diet, trying to get you feeling right. Cut up them avocados, fry some eggs, time to explore the longest running health podcast, hosted by Jimmy Moore. Time to give up the crappy garbage. We're getting into ketosis. Every day is a new step to your goal. Yeah, you're getting closer, motivated and focused. Don't stop, just go. Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
So guys, that right there is Jason Stauffer. Go follow him over on Instagram. He's Jason_Morozco. And Morozco actually is Morozco Forge. If you've been following my journey, I have, since the beginning of the year, been getting in an ice bath every single day, 32-degree temperature water for 5 minutes a day. And it's this man who's responsible for that tub that I get into every day. It is called the Morozco Forge. He is the president of the company. Go follow them. They have a Instagram page as well, Morozco Forge, MOROZKOFORGE, if you want to check them out. But dude, you are an impressive guy. I was looking over a lot of your page when I first heard about who you were. You're a combat veteran. I love you write, I am anti-fragile. Somebody is a fan of Nassim Taleb. And so, yes, dude, welcome. I'm glad to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. And it was great to meet you out at the biohacking conference in Orlando.
Yes.
So we kind of got a chance to shake hands and get to know each other a little bit. And it's great to be here.
Yeah, Dave Asprey puts on a great event, and you guys were one of the things. And it was so hard to find you at that conference. I remember I kept saying, "Where is Morozco Forge? I have to get into it." Because I had ordered your tub at that point, but it had not come in yet. And I'm like, I'm dying to see what 32 degrees feels like, because I'd only done ice in my bathtub for many years or many months at that point. And I was like, I have to get in. And so when I found you behind the little coffee bar, I was like, yes. And then the girl that was guiding me, she's like, after about 7 minutes, she's like, "Sir, can you please get out? We have other people that want to get in." And I was enjoying it so much. Yeah,
that might have been Adrienne, my wife and business
Yes,
partner.
Adrienne. That's who it was.
Yeah.
Hi, Adrienne.
Yep.
Yeah, she's amazing. And yeah, she's like, you've done this before. Yes, I have a couple times. So.
Yeah.
I love it.
It was a great event.
Yes, it was a great event. We're gonna get into more about ice baths and cold therapy, but let's learn more about you. Who are you? And where'd you come from? And tell us kind of the story about what led you to wanting to create this Morozco Forge ice bath.
Yeah. As you mentioned, I myself am a military combat veteran. I served in the United States Army from 1999 till 2005. I was involved in the initial invasion of Iraq in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was blessed, really, that if you were going to be over there, that was probably one of the better times to be there. It wasn't so much insurgency, so much random violence. We didn't have established operating bases at the time. I basically lived underneath a tarp in between two trucks for about 5 months. But that also was kind of good because we were constantly on the move. And once things got a little more established, that's when just random rockets started landing places. So I like to say that I had, as combat experiences go, a very benign one. But it still kind of left me mentally and physically changed in very significant ways. I got back to the United States in 2005. Eventually found my way to college on the GI Bill and got my Bachelor's of Science in Civil, Environmental, and Sustainable Engineering. Then I didn't go into that field. I decided I didn't want to be a civil engineer. You get the sense that you're going to be designing roller coasters and skyscrapers for the rest of your life, which is really amazing. But that's really not. There's like 3 civil engineers who do that. The rest of them are all on sidewalks and light posts.
I was a poli-sci major because I thought I wanted to go into government and make a difference in the world. And then this was in the 90s. Then I saw what government and politics was like at that time. And I'm like, I want no part of that. So no thank you. It was crazy even then. It's even worse now. But back then I could even sense that it was going to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's probably some analogies there with my experience in the healthcare industry, because that's where I found a short 6.5 year career after college was in the healthcare industry as a pharmaceutical business analyst. So, you know, somebody said, "Hey, you've got an engineering degree, you know math, you know spreadsheets. Come analyze this pharmaceutical business data for me and draw some conclusions that way." I'm like, "Sure, sounds right." Math is math and Excel is Excel. So I got into that, and that really gave me kind of this macro level, data-driven understanding of what the drug prescribing culture really was like in the United States and in the greater industrialized world to some extent as well. My first couple of years in the industry was for a small for-profit pharmaceutical company that I got out of that. And I went to work for a consultant agency that was working with nonprofit hospitals, helping them basically try to rob pharmaceutical companies. So once you get your feet wet in the pharmaceutical industry, and you're like, whoa, this is kind of weird. What's going on here? You jump out of that, and then you go, help nonprofit hospitals help basically steal drugs from the pharmaceutical companies and leverage finances from the insurance companies under government programs that are designed to help these nonprofit hospitals. And that starts to feel good for a little while, like you're Robin Hood, right? Like you're the good guy, you're stealing money from the rich and you're giving it to the poor. But then again, getting this processing millions and millions of lines of pharmaceutical data and auditing patient records and seeing how drugs are just chronically prescribed for symptom management over and over and over again, and there's no conversations, whatsoever about, you want to try and figure out what's causing this. I mean, I can give you the pills for the pain and the swelling and the whatever, but they've got their own side effects, but nobody's having the conversation of, there are some things that you could do to get ahead of this thing, or at least to reverse it a little bit. And so then the realization that I came to is, as much as that side of the industry is full of people who really want to do good in the world, is that I wasn't really stealing money from the rich and giving it to the poor. I was stealing poison from the rich and giving it to the poor, because so much of the pharmaceutical products out there are nothing more than something that's going to dull or relieve some symptoms, which is great. Relieving suffering is great. But that's not really what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do is understand where these disease states come from, have a greater understanding of where these disease states come from, and how I could support in some way individuals taking charge of their own life in a way that keeps them out of that hospital, keeps them off of that chronically prescribed medications.
You know what, though? We have trained our society and the people in it that health is found in a pill. And so everybody's like, just give me the pill that will help with my high cholesterol, which therefore will help me with cardiovascular disease. Help me have an obesity pill so I can lose weight and keep eating the way I want to. There is no focus on prevention. There's no focus on holistic practices as an adjunct to your health. It's all about medicine, 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 medicine. And with the events of the last 2 years, that's all we've heard. We've literally heard nothing about metabolic health. We've heard nothing about how to improve your immune system, which, by the way, guys, ice baths, good for your immune system. None of the things that they should be telling us. And so it's not surprising to me what's happened in the last 2 years, because it's what they've done my entire career of being a podcaster online. They have never put the emphasis on doing things for your nutrition and biohacks like ice baths. They've never done that.
Absolutely. And there's a personal aspect to this kind of creation story as well. At the same time when I was working in this system and processing that data and auditing those records and kind of getting that level of understanding of what was going on, my wife, Adrienne, who's also my business partner, she was going through her own chronic illness. She got to her early 30s, and then all of a sudden, very suddenly, she just started becoming allergic to everything around her. Food she had enjoyed her entire life were now burning her esophagus. Botanicals in Phoenix, Arizona, where she'd spent the last 15 years, were now attacking her skin. There was rapid weight loss, lethargy, joint pain, and it just happened very, very suddenly. And it was very strange to me, because she was going to doctors, and she was going through tests, blood tests, MRIs, CAT scans, trying to figure out like what is going on. Why is her body attacking itself all of a sudden? After she got through the first 31 years of her life, all of a sudden her systems are just going haywire. And she did end up with a few chronic diagnoses in autoimmune conditions. One of them was Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. And then there was Eosinophilic Esophagitis, which is a mouthful to say, ironically, because what it is those allergic reactions in the esophagus. So foods and botanicals and people's colognes and fragrances, body sprays, were creating hives in her esophagus,
Wow.
which is super painful. They would burst. And, not to get too medical, like fluids would run down, acidic fluids would run down her esophagus. And it was just horrible. And then urticaria, which was the skin flushing condition where all of a sudden the mesquite and, and all the other trees and stuff that we have in Phoenix were just burning her skin. And so, of course, there were prescriptions that were administered. The endocrinologist put her on a synthetic hormone, Synthroid, which is very common. And her allergist was giving her 2 live antibody shots a month of a prescription product called Xolair. Now, fortunately, we had very, very good insurance at the time that the Xolair shots were going on, because these things are like $5,000 a piece. There was a period of time where we didn't have any insurance, and the Synthroid that she was on, and the endocrinologist will tell patients, look, you have this condition. It's an autoimmune condition. Your thyroid is attacking itself. There's nothing that you did that caused this. It's just something that happens. There's nothing you can do to undo this. But lucky for you, we have this pill that you can take once a day for the rest of your life that will help you manage it. And by the way, if you stop taking this, once you start taking this, you might die.
Right.
Now, that's a paraphrasing of the narrative that
it's close.
The endocrinologist, but it's pretty close. All of those key components are there. Just the tone of my voice and the way that I delivered it might be a little bit differently, but that's the narrative and that's the message.
And they pretend like Synthroid is the only medication that is appropriate. They don't even talk about Natrathyroid and some other more holistic, more healthy versions, because the Synthroid only works through one pathway where it's the direct version of, what is it, T4, and you have to kind of convert it into T3. I might have some of the details wrong. Adrienne, correct us if we're wrong.
You know more than I do about those details.
but you can get it from desiccated pig thyroid, which is a lot better, and a lot of compounding pharmacies can get all the junk out of it.
She was on, that's where the version she was on, because there's a couple of different Synthroid products, and the one that she was on, I believe, was the pig thyroid.
Armor is the name brand, Armor Thyroid.
And so there was a brief period of time where we didn't have health insurance. I was switching jobs from that for-profit pharmaceutical to the working with nonprofits. Adrienne was switching jobs at the same time. And so here is a patient who has sat in an endocrinologist's office and been told, if you stop taking this, you might die.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're like, what if we stop being able to afford this? I mean, I think it might have been only like $80 at full price at the time, but at the time that was significant to us. And so we were just going back for free samples from the endocrinologist's office. And they got to a point where they're like, look, we can't just keep giving you free samples every week. And so that was just part of the whole journey. And what I was watching at this time was I was watching my wife underneath these pharmaceutical products, which have side effects, which led to some naturopathic supplements to combat the side effects, but those supplements had side effects. And so I was just watching this pill bottle grow and grow and grow on our dresser, thinking about what I knew from a data perspective, from a patient record auditing perspective, and thinking about what my wife was going through, watching her psychologically start to resonate with that kind of that chronic illness diagnoses. Like, she's like, okay, I have answers now. I am a chronically sick person, and there's nothing I can do about this except manage the rest of my life with these products. And that didn't sit right with me either.
No.
And so I just started reading. I started reading everything I could on biology, physiology, exercise, diet, psychology, trauma response and healing. Also digging into like old works of fiction. And I say this to people all the time, like, you read like old novels too, and you mentioned this. I'm like, yeah, it's not just all about what the doctors are writing now. Go to any significant fiction writer whose works are still kind of in the canon, who are still like passed out to kids at high school. If you can go to Barnes and Noble and they're still on the shelves and they're 50 years old or older, there's a reason for that. And the reason is there is some sort of wisdom held within that story, that narrative about our culture, our society, our belief systems, whatever, that specific author tapped in on, that has made it transgenerationally resonant. Pick those up. There's a ton of wisdom in that. You want to learn about, like the environment that people were being raised in and living in, and how they were associating with their stressors and with industrialization and things like that. A lot of it's not in the old works of nonfiction. It's in the old works of fiction. Right. So I was even doing that. And so I was solidifying my understanding of what was going on. And one of those books was Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. Yes. Which I gather you, Jimmy, have read that book.
Of course.
Maybe a lot of your audience has. For a lot of people who haven't, Nassim Taleb is a Lebanese-American, yep, there it is, a Lebanese-American stock trader, linguistics, and mathematics professor who solidified his philosophical kind of concept of anti-fragility. And he says, as a linguist, I've looked through all of these languages that I know, and I can find words for fragile, something like a wine glass, where I drop it on a hard ground, it's going to shatter into a million pieces. It's never going back to the way it was. I can find something for robust, like a concrete wall, where I can sit there and I can poke that concrete wall with my finger for a year, and my finger's going to get worn down to a nub. The concrete wall is going to be fine. But what is something that actually gets better? It gets better when you stress it. And a lot of Taleb's application of this theory goes into financial markets and society and things like that, but there's a biological aspect of it as well. And that biological aspect is what really resonated with me. An example of anti-fragility in biology is, if I want the tree behind me to grow taller, I will cut off its lower branches. Now, the tree doesn't just grow those lower branches back. The tree actually will grow taller and rebound towards the sun in order to in an anti-fragile process, to respond to the trauma that was introduced to it. If I want to build my muscles, I can go lift heavy weights, and I'm actually tearing muscle tissue. This is a little bit of trauma to the muscle tissue. And my body doesn't just, put it right back to the way it was. It rebounds a little bit, and that's how we can, build our muscles. And so this kind of understanding really changed the way that I was thinking about the world around me, about the world around Adrienne, about the world around all of us, and realizing all of these ways that we are existing outside of our own biology and our own psychology in industrialized society, in a way that is not accessing our innate evolutionary anti-fragility. We're not using our vascular system the way that our vascular system was developed. We're not using our metabolic system the way that our metabolic system was developed. We're not using our nervous system the way that our nervous system was developed. Everything around us gets accepted as normal when we're born in this society, because we come here as an infant, we open our eyes, and we start tagging everything we see as normal. We live in a very abnormal society. Now, there's a lot of positive things about that. I'm not, some nihilistic anarchist who wants to blow it all up. I'm not Tyler Durden, but we have to understand that there's a trade-off here. And if we want these technologies, and we want these climate controls, and we want to solve food problems, and we want people to have enough to eat and everything like that, then we need to understand, like, where are the externalities? And those externalities are going to be in nervous system disease, vascular system disease, autoimmune conditions. And the thing that I was getting at is, I started thinking about, what can I do? How can I experiment with that helps pull some of that back? Starting with my own health, and then Adrienne joined in afterwards. And so, to make a long story kind of shorter, the first thing that we ended up with was ketogenic dieting and extended and intermittent fasting. Reducing carbs and sugar.
I have heard of those things, yes.
Yeah. And then ice baths. Ice bath, yep. Ice bath is one of the other big things. And,
yes.
hard to kind of get a sense of what was all contributing to the journey, because it was all contributing to the journey. So started fasting, started watching our carbs, watching our sugar, and then getting into deliberate cold exposure, taking ice baths. And in Adrienne's case, one of the main things that I always think about, and there's no like test I can do to kind of put a number on this, but one of the main things that I noticed is doing these things empowered her and helped her mindset in a way that nothing else did. Because in the allopathic healthcare solution, she was labeled a irrevocably chronically ill person who could do nothing more but take the products that they were giving her for the rest of her life. And then there was depression and anxiety about that.
And it would get it would get progressively worse with time.
Absolutely. Like, she wasn't getting better. Nothing was, she was just being given a project, something to work on. And so there was a depression and an anxiety. And then as soon as she's like, wow, I can go 2 days without food. I can do that and not die. And I actually feel good and better. You mean I can cut the bread out 5 days a week and feel better? You mean I can sit in a tub of ice water and it's uncomfortable, but there's something in me, in my systems, that are like rebooted and brought to life? And so whatever those things, those modalities and the other things we were trying, we're actually doing on a physiological level, I really do believe that psychological issue, that empowerment, that like giving her a sense of, I am actually in control of my own body, my own systems, my own health, and I can do things that might be a little bit uncomfortable, but they make me feel good. They make me feel better. They make me feel better about how I look in the mirror. She's shedding weight and she's more vibrant. And, I've been talking for a while here. I'm going to let you get some words in edgewise, Jimmy. But to catch anybody up who doesn't know, Adrienne has been off of all medications for over 2 years now, going on 3 years now. In 2019, she weaned herself off of, she just started reducing those supplement bottles down, and then got down to no longer doing the antibody shots. And she weaned herself off of the synthetic hormone. And hasn't gone back since. She's got her own amazing story on how she followed up with the endocrinologist after that. But I'll just go ahead and kind of lay the origin story out like that, and let's move on.
Did you go keto and thought you had to give up wine? Well, let me introduce you to Dry Farm Wines. It is the world's first sugar-free alcohol that is lower than your typical wines, organic, made at local farms that do it the right way. Most of the wines that you buy are from 3 really big companies, loaded with additives and preservatives, so many dozens of those kinds of things. You don't want all that junk in your wine. So go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and they will ship you these wines. And just because you listen to this podcast, Dry Farm Wines is going to give you a bottle in your first order for just 1 cent. Go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and you will get your bottle of wine for just 1 singular penny. Go check them out. Dry Farm Wines, you guys. It's wine o'clock somewhere. Let's go get some wine. Oh, I mean, it's amazing because knowing the why of the ice bath creation and why you decided to get into business making the Morozco Forge is important. I think people need to know you're not just some shyster that came along and heard that ice baths were a thing and decided to make it. This is personal for you, Jason. This is personal for your wife, Adrienne. This is personal for a lot of people who have been directly impacted, positively so, by things like ketogenic diets, by things like fasting, which as of the recording of this, I just finished a 6-day fast, and by ice baths, which I've been doing daily since the beginning of the year, as you well know, in your tub. So let's get to the Morozco Forge, because a lot of people, they ask me about your tub. I'm like, I don't work for them, guys. I'll get somebody from the company on. So tell us about the origins, because you're in Phoenix, Arizona. I remember you telling me the story at Dave Asprey's biohacking conference. That, hey, look, it gets like 100-something degrees in the dead of summer in Phoenix, and I want to do ice baths, but you can't always control the temperature. If you put ice in there just melts so fast you can't really get the benefits. So tell us the origin of the story, and your engineering comes into play in this story.
Yeah, so it kind of picks up almost, where we left off in the narrative. And so we were getting into ice baths, and we were doing it about once a week on Sundays. I'd taken my first few with a local Wim Hof instructor and yoga instructor named Gordon. And he was doing them sporadically at his house on Friday morning. It wasn't even every Friday morning. And you would get a text message on Thursday evening, says, hey, we're doing Wim Hof at the house tomorrow, 6 a.m. Bring 2 bags of ice if you're in, which was okay for me because, his house happened to be kind of on the way to my office job. And I had some schedule flexibility where it didn't really matter exactly what time I showed up. I could show up at 8, 8:30, 9, whatever. That was just the luxury that I had. Adrienne's office job was the opposite direction, and she was still in a very much, clock in, don't be 15 minutes late, kind of in that kind of office culture. Which is probably something else that isn't good for our health, but that's another podcast. And so I had done like 2 or 3 ice baths. I hadn't solidified any sort of like physical or philosophical understanding of how this was, going into all of the things that I was reading and thinking about. All I knew is like, again, my systems were rebooted and back online. I'm like, there was something here in this, something anti-fragile, something beneficial. It's not just some sort of party trick where it's like, oh, everybody look, Jason and Jimmy are taking the ice baths again. Wow, those crazy guys.
Yeah.
There was something powerful in this. And so we wanted to be able to do it. I wanted to be able to do it in my own backyard. I wanted Adrienne to be able to have the opportunity. So I just got my own stock tank from the feed store, dragged it to my backyard. And every Sunday, it was kind of the same thing. We would buy a bunch of ice. We'd invite people over, say, bring 2 bags of ice. And we had a good little group going, about 4 or 5 of us every Sunday. And then,
BYOI, is that what it would? Bring your own ice?
Yeah, bring your own ice. And we were still supplying most of the ice because I think we had maybe 2 or 3 friends who would show up from outside of the house. And so we were buying most of the ice. They were bringing their contributions, which was great. And we were still only getting 1 ice bath per week. And in the summertime in Phoenix, it's going to get 115, 120 degrees in the day. There are periods in the summertime here where the temperature does not drop below 100 degrees overnight.
Yeah.
A little side event, that's actually one of my favorite times of year in Phoenix is when it's midnight and it's still 100 degrees outside, because then it just feels like a warm hug. But when you're in the blaring heat of the day, first of all, the tap water gets up to like 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So as the summer heats up, so does our tap water. So There's not even really such a thing as a cold shower in Phoenix in the summertime. It comes out 80 degrees at the coldest you're going to get it out of the tap in some places. And so you're filling up your stock tank with 80-degree water. You're dumping in 200 pounds of ice, and you're getting maybe an hour and a half of an ice bath before your ice is gone. And that water's working its way back up to whatever the sun wants it to be at. And so we were looking for an easier way to do it. And we were also looking for a way to do it more often. I couldn't buy 200 pounds of ice every day. One of the things I started with was using Costco like pretzel and salsa containers. And so we had like these, because our sons were like just nomming on Costco pretzels back then. In retrospect, not the greatest thing I was letting them do. But anyways, it happened. And so we'd end up with like these big plastic buckets, and I'd cut the top off of it. And I had a big stand-up freezer in the backyard, and I would fill up these plastic containers, and also use some little like salsa ones, and fill up these salsa containers, and I'd stick them in that freezer, and about 24 hours later they would be solid ice blocks. And so I'd come home from work, and I'd work on popping these ice blocks out of the containers. I'd stack the ice blocks up in the freezer, and then I'd fill up the containers again, and I'd do this as many times as I could throughout the week. And so by the end of the week, the only thing that I'd save myself is going to the store and getting the ice. I had all these ice blocks. It was taking me like 6 to 8 hours of labor each week just to create them. And I still only got 1 ice bath a week. And so this is when the kind of the engineering education kicks in. One of our friends, who's also one of our main founders and business partners, Tom Seeger, He's an engineering professor that I worked with when I was getting my civil engineering degree. And he was also one of the individuals coming over and taking the weekly ice baths, bringing his 2 bags of ice. And he was also at the time, because he's a research scientist, getting into whatever available literature was out there. So we were starting to solidify our understanding that this isn't just some feel good thing or some party trick that's going to, impress your friends or look good on Instagram. We were starting to understand not only the systems that this practice and this therapy works on, but why and how.
Yes.
And so he brings over a little dorm fridge that I think he had at his office at Arizona State. And he's just like, Jason, tear it apart, figure out how it works, see what we can do. I'm like,
yeah,
all right. And so the very first proof of concept experiment is I tore apart this dorm fridge. I figured out like what makes the cold and pulled that out of the back and took a small styrofoam cooler, put some water in it. I would eventually figure out that this thing that makes the cold is called an evaporator, and it goes into the water. And I put the styrofoam lid on top. I plugged it in and I walked away from it overnight because I wanted to see, do refrigeration parts from a refrigerator work this way, work in water? From my engineering education, I understood something very elegant, and that is that cold does not exist. Cold is the absence of thermal energy.
right.
It is what happens when you take the thermal energy or kinetic energy or molecular energy out of matter and send it somewhere else. And so I understood that refrigerators work by drawing the thermal energy out of the enclosed space and dissipating it to the environment. But I have no idea if this works when the thing is submerged in a thing of water. So overnight, I come back and I froze the shit out of that water. I'm like, okay, so there's something here to this. And so then I tore apart 2 or 3 other refrigerators. We even bought one just to tear it apart. First we tore up that used one. Then I tore up the freezer that I was making the ice blocks in. I actually cracked the refrigeration system in that, like right when I had the damn thing tore apart. And so that became a useless piece of junk. So then we went and bought a refrigerator just to take it back to the yard and tear it apart. Did that. Took my stock tank and sat it on a bed of sand and put a pine box around it and sprayed it with a whole bunch of foam insulation. And I took the door from that freezer that I destroyed. I put it on top, and it's like 120, 125 degrees in Phoenix in the summer. And I've got 2 evaporators out of 2 different refrigerators just draped over the side. I plug the damn things in, and I walk away. I'm like, let's see if I can make myself an all-the-time ice bath. And that took, I think maybe 3 or 4 days before it really got down to some high 30s, some low 40s temperatures. But it just kept working itself down. It kept pulling out more thermal energy than what was working its way back in from the environment, which is what we needed. So I got down to freezing temperatures. And I said, well, here it is. Here's my all-the-time ice bath. It's ugly. It can't move anywhere, because it's sitting on a bed of sand. And it's big and it's clunky and it's just some ugly backyard engineering project. But I've got it and it's here. Now I can take an ice bath every day. And, at the same time this is happening, Tom's getting into the scientific literature. We're starting to follow social media trends. Like you said, Jimmy, we didn't find ice baths, an ice bath market first and be like, here's a market opportunity. We were just solving a problem for ourselves and starting to follow hashtag Wim Hof, hashtag breathwork, hashtag ice bath. And what I kept seeing out there were people trying to solve the same problem in the way that I was trying to solve them with salsa containers. I kept seeing the same Costco salsa containers. Somebody hashtag ice bath, like, look, I made ice blocks out of my Costco salsa containers so that I don't got to buy bags of ice. And that's when we kind of sat around and we're like, this is a company, this is a product, this is an emerging culture within a subculture within our culture that has a problem that nobody is solving yet. So
well, how long ago was this, that all this narrative that you're telling us now, when did this happen?
This would have been 2018. So my first ice bath was October of 2017. By the time you get into spring and summer of 2018, we'd gotten through the backyard prototype, and we're coming to the realization that, we could work on this design. We could work on putting this together in a way where we can offer this solution to the people out there who really needed it. And so our first sale, our first customer was actually January of 2019. So we spent the rest of 2018 kind of taking that backyard engineering project, and I tore it all down. I've only got like one little like wood piece left. It's a Forge 1 on it. And just like, okay, how do we build it again? How do we build it again? How are we going to like ship this thing? How are we going to move it? Like, you know, our first customers were here in Phoenix, and then we realized like there's people somewhere else, and this is a big box. Like how, and just solving all of these problems is how we spent a lot of 2019 as well.
Yes. Well, I can tell you as an owner, which by the way, guys, they didn't give me one of these. I bought this with my money. So don't think that this is a paid promo. I love ice baths, and I got tired. Let me tell you a little bit of my story in case you hadn't heard. So I started 3 years ago, right in 2019-ish, doing colder showers. Now I had heard about cold thermogenesis from way back in the paleo days, because I've been around forever and ever, amen. So over a decade ago in paleo, they were talking about this concept of cold thermogenesis and taking cold showers. And I thought that was the stupidest thing in the world. Why would you do that? Of course, not knowing the biological and the mental health benefits of it. And so 3 years ago, I just got to the point where I was like, I think I need to try that. And so in my bathroom, right in there, I would slowly, at the end of my hot shower, turn it down to warm. And that's where I started. People think, oh my gosh, I could never get into that icy bath like you do, the Morozco Forge. And I'm like, no, don't. You have to acclimate and work your way down. And so for me, it started with warm water, and then a little cooler, and then a little cooler, until I'm on the coldest setting, and I'm literally in there for like an hour, Jason, where I'm like, I just love it so much, because it becomes this addiction after a while. Once you get acclimated to cold, you kind of want more of it. So then from there, I bought 20-pound bags of ice from Sam's Club, filled up my little tub with my 6'3" body and my 4-foot tub. That shit got old really fast, but I did it for a little while, about a year, most of last year. And then I found out about your company, and I was like, holy crap. I would do ice baths more often, same thing you were talking about, if it was more convenient, if it was easy. And I saw you had a filtration system for the water. I saw that it made its own ice. That was cool. People still get enamored by that. Where do you get all that ice from? I'm like, it makes it. That's the magic of the Morozco Forge. And so I couldn't afford it, but I was like, you know what? I see this as an investment. I feel like I need to invest in Jimmy, and I already know I'm getting benefits from cold thermogenesis. Let's up the game and let's get this bad boy so I can do it more often. And thus I created this challenge in 2022 where I would get in there every single day for 5 minutes a day. I got 7.5 minutes the other day. I decided to push it a little bit longer just to see if I could go longer. And I did okay. I was a little more numb over the body with that, but it was worth it to try. But all of those things is why I'm glad that you created the Morozco Forge. And it's an amazing thing. Like, yes, guys, it's expensive, but it's unique. It's also something that if you had it, you would do more cold thermogenesis and you would get that benefit. And that's what we're talking about at the end of the day. We want people to experience the adjunct benefits to their keto or carnivore diet, to their fasting plan, to all these other things that you do to optimize your health. Look at the ice bath in a similar way.
I love it, and thanks for all of that, Jimmy. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, you know, and we're still the first few years into it, and every year we've reached more people than before. One of the things that I want to speak to the price point of it. I know that I sell an expensive product. It's a premium product. And certainly we were starting to see a lot of people inquiring, you know, in late 2019, early 2020, seeking this wellness salon model, like, you know, this biohacking, you know, like store. And of course, with so much disruption that happened with small businesses and entrepreneurs, those all kind of went away. But they're starting to come back. And I love that, because of course I want everybody to have access to this therapy. And what I really love is the culture out there that is starting to think about, how can I do this as a membership model? How can I do this as like a drop-in rate? And they're out there sporadically in, you know, most major cities, and they're growing and growing and growing. And so I love watching that journey of the business side of it. where there's people out there who's like, how can somebody do this for $20, $50, $150 a month, who doesn't have, you know, either the financial or just the floor space to have the actual product themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we say whatever gets you cold. If you got cold showers, take cold showers. If you're getting bags of ice from Costco or Sam's Club into your tub, you know, whatever gets you cold. And we have we're an open book if anybody wants to reach out and tell us a little bit about what they're working on. We love guiding people to the nearest best solution that they have.
A lot of people ask me, Jimmy, how do you get such good deep sleep? Well, there's a lot of things that I do, but one of the newest things that I recently added is this upgraded magnesium from a company called Upgraded Formulas. Go to their website, upgradedformulas.com, and you can learn all about this nano technology that they use for this particular mineral of magnesium. Again, it's called Upgraded Magnesium, and it's got all the different forms of magnesium in it using the nanotechnology, so it gets absorbed a lot better. Guys, I have seen my deep sleep improve by as much as 30 to 40% simply by adding in this product along with sunshine exposure, darkness in the room, cooler temperature, all of the things that I always have done. So again, upgradedformulas.com is the website. Go check them out. Well, and this time of year is the perfect time if you're trying to get your foray into cold. We don't get a lot of snow here, and I know you don't get any snow there in Phoenix, Arizona, but we don't get a lot of snow here even in the South, but we had a big snowstorm about a month ago. And so I took full advantage of getting in my swimming trunks and playing Snow Angel in that snow. That was so much fun, by the way. I was like, my Morozco Forge can sit for a day because I'm going to go play in the snow. And I feel like 2022, and it could just be because I'm paying more attention to it now, but I feel like 2022 is the year of cold therapy. I feel like there are more people interested in it now than I've ever seen it before. Have you sensed that?
Absolutely. In fact, we just took a unit out to Dripping Springs, Texas, outside of Austin, where I was part of a men's healing retreat weekend, and we've made the drive. Yeah, we've made the drive to Austin and back a number of times over the last year. And it's, you know, it's about a 2-day drive through most of Texas and part of New Mexico and a lot of Arizona. And one of the things I noticed this time, there were 2 separate gas stations that we stopped at to fill up. And this usually annoys the heck out of me, is when a gas pump will start playing something on a TV.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm actually very protective about what marketing I will allow to have access to my mind. I don't watch commercial television. I don't listen to commercial radio. I go ahead and pay for the streaming services to take the commercials out. And so if I'm filling my gas tank and all of a sudden something comes on that's got commercials, it just kind of kills my vibe. But at 2 specific different gas stations, this happened. And whatever they were announcing, they were talking about cold thermogenesis. I'm like, crap, like that's my industry. That's my thing right there. And it's playing at a gas pump in the middle of Central Texas, at 2 gas pumps in the middle of Central Texas. And then the place that we had breakfast in our little overnight on the way there, we were walking out, and on the television was some sort of like Good Morning America or Good Morning, some sort of morning show. And they were tooling up the next thing, like, oh, after the commercial break, come back, and Janie's going to do a cold bath out in the lake and talk about, you know, da, 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 da. I'm like, it's sweeping the nation.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. You know? And so these are just a few examples that have hit me on how this is emerging as no longer just something that's very niche amongst a very small group of people who you find at, you know, the biohacking conferences or the other little subcultures. It's really kind of hitting a little bit of the mainstream, at least in, you know, putting the information out there. And it's going to be interesting to see how that tends to propagate and seed itself and resonate through the culture.
Well, and I love to see it because, look, things become trendy. I started talking about keto long before it became a trend. I was experimenting with it in 2012. I wrote a book about it in 2014, but then it kind of hit the mainstream around 2016, 17 is when it kind of really hit, and then it kind of had its heyday all the way until the pandemic hit, and then it kind of died as a trend. But like, things have trends, but I think with trends, people learn modalities that help them. And look, one of the biggest things I've gotten doing all these ice baths every day in my Morozco Forge is, oh, I could never do that. And I'm just like, but like, you're looking at someone who's done this a little while, who's gotten really good at it, who enjoys where I'm at. You've got to start where you start. You can't expect a preschooler to join the major leagues. They have to kind of play t-ball first, and then they have to work their way into, you know, middle school ball and high school ball and college, and work your way through the AA, AAA until you hit the big show. That's the way I look at it with ice baths. Don't try to compare your journey to a Jason Stauffer or a Jimmy Moore, where we've gotten really good at it. You kind of need to start where you want to start. And so people, they summarily dismiss this out of hand before they even get started. They don't even give it a shot. How do you convince people to just start somewhere?
My first reaction is that I don't, and I mean, I'll definitely talk to a person who's curious, and I hear the same things like, whoa, no, I could never do that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. If that's the story that you're telling yourself, you're absolutely right. And I can tell at this point, because I've seen thousands of people go through their first ice bath. Adrienne is great. I mean, she's developed her own coaching style of sensory immersive guidance.
Yes.
And I've seen her get so many people through their first ice baths at 32 degrees, 2 minutes. You know, she's certifying other coaches now. Yeah. And so she's got the skills to get the people who already are willing to kind of take those first couple of steps.
Yes.
But I will see in the group, I will know who's not going to make it to 2 minutes, because they're already telling themselves they're not going to make it to 2 minutes.
Right.
They're already in anxiety. They're already projecting the outcome to that future moment. And so, I mean, I'm not one of Adrienne's certified coaches. It's something she likes to poke fun at me about. But I've coached people through as well. And one of the things that I will say to someone is to understand whatever anxiety, whatever stress you're having, right now, before you get into this water, understand that is an imagined moment. That moment hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
So what are you stressed about? Like, what are you anxious about? You're anxious about something that only exists in your mind right now. And you can change what exists in your mind right now. And you can change what exists in your mind when you get into that cold bath. And we tell people all the time, enter as a king, exit as a king, to just go in calm, have the reaction you're going to have, bring yourself back to a state of calm, come out, be calm, stand in a proud stance. Don't
the
hunch
Superman
over yourself.
pose. Yes.
The power pose that Adrienne coaches people to do. And what's amazing and very interesting to me is how malleable we actually are this way. And we tend to think that, our beliefs and our mentalities and our anxieties are all just coded into us, and we really have no choice but to, manage them or be slaves to them. And in this experience has taught me many things. And one of it is that you can change the story that you tell yourself, and the story that you tell yourself is so powerful in where you're going to be. Whether it's after 2 minutes of an ice bath or in 2 years of entrepreneurship, or whatever it is that you're working on, just understand that it all starts with kind of shifting that mindset.
And see, that's the thing. And I'm so glad you said all that. That's the thing to me. When I get in an ice bath, I know it's hella hard. Like, I know that is something the vast majority of people would never even attempt to do, which gives it all the more special meaning that I get in that thing and I'm able to stay in 32-degree temperature water for 5 minutes. That's badass. And when you do something that other people think is impossible, and then you do something that is impossible, the empowering feeling that gives you, Jason, the reason I feel so confident in other areas of my life and I'm able to do other really hard things is because I had the courage to do one hard thing first. And that to me is reason enough to do the ice baths. Prove to yourself that you can do hard things. And then when really hard things come, you're like, yeah, I got this.
Absolutely, and yeah, we say that all the time as well. After gotten through, whether it's one ice bath or 1,000 ice baths, your response to bad traffic, to relationship stress,
Yes.
to financial, all of these other things start to line up as more malleable, and you're able to select your response a lot better. I've said often that it's ironic that my business is ice baths, because as an entrepreneur I have a lot of stress, and my product is also my product is both the cause and the solution to
Yes.
a lot of the stress that I carry. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I can tell you, the very first time I got into the Morozco Forge, I had never done 32 degrees before. And I thought, okay, I've done my little ice in the ice tub and done the showers, cold showers. Let's just go full bore in there. And I was not quite ready for what I was about to experience. And so I got in there, and I literally, my heart kind of went, what the fuck? And it just kind of fluttered a little bit, because I was like, okay, yeah, this is a little more intense than I was expecting. And it took my breath away. But then I realized I survived. And I
Mm-hmm.
was able to do it for 2 minutes, and was able to kind of go, okay, now I know what it feels like. The next time I come in, I've got a better mindset of what to expect. And that next time, a little less of that. And then the next time after that, a little less, a little less, a little less. And at first, my hands would be extremely prickly, literally felt like thousands of needles were like
Mm-hmm.
banging all over it, and same with the toes. And now they get numb, but I don't really feel prickliness in any of my extremities. And it's like acclimation, acclimation, acclimation. You guys don't think that you won't get better. Don't judge keto on the first day, when all of your when all of the symptoms of the keto flu hit you hard, and think that it's going to be that way all the time. Don't think that because you feel hungry on day 2 of a fast, that it's going to feel the same way on day 6 of a fast. Don't think the first time you're in an ice bath and you have that freak out moment, that it's always going to feel the same way. The body adapts, and adapts very quickly, and adapts very well, so you get the benefits.
Absolutely, and that's what our bodies are. Our bodies are, amazingly adaptive. That's where we came from as a species. That's what allows our species to exist in as many climates as it does, is our vascular system and our metabolic system's ability to adjust to different climates and different situations. And you know, it's kind of, I mean, there are good things and bad things about saying how many of our species there are all over the place. But just understand that from a biological perspective, that's what we adapted to do. We adapted to be lots of different places, lots of different climates, to be stressed with lots of different things. And again, in our industrialized societies, the more that we're lacking in that, the more those negative externalities start to manifest as disease states.
Well, and it's funny to me how people say this is so extreme. Somebody on YouTube, one of my videos, one of my ice bath videos, oh, why are you doing all this extremeness in your, diet, and extremeness like ice baths? I'm like, you do realize that ancestrally, this is how we lived. We were in the extreme temperatures. We exposed ourselves to cold. It's only modern society that has taken away this very healthy, very natural way to boost immunity and lower inflammation and regulate hormones. Like, this is more normal than what everybody else does, staying in very comfortable thermostat controlled 72-degree Fahrenheit all day, every day, 365 days a year. That's not normal.
No. I mean, it's normal in the last 50, 60 years, maybe 100 years or so. But I tell people all the time when I talk about this, I say, you'll realize that you are descended from early humans who tracked hooved animals barefoot and naked across glaciers. Like, this is where your biology came from. And, whether you tend towards the evolutionary adaptation, or, more of a philosophical creation, just realize that whether you were evolved or created, these were the conditions that you evolved in or were created for. And to remove that is exactly why we see the disease prevalence that we do, metabolically, vascularly, psychologically, nervous system, in our society.
Well, I can tell you, I started doing these because I have extra weight on the body. I don't hide from that. But I feel really well. I'm pretty healthy. I eat healthy. I do lots of different biohacks, including red light, including infrared sauna, vibration plate, meditation, grounding, you name it. I'm doing the biohack. And it's like you try to move the needle. And sometimes people only look at their weight and, well, I'm not losing weight, so therefore nothing is happening. Don't fool yourself, people. You're doing good things. Even if the weight's still in the body, you can change the inside of your body. And yeah, some of us is going to be a little more stubborn than others. I'm going to be very interested at the end of this experiment in 2022, Jason, if somehow I move the needle on the fat loss end of things. But I can tell you from a mental health perspective, after doing this for just over a month, light years better than when I started. And if that's the only change I see all year, it won't be. But if it was the only thing I saw change all year, it was already worth it.
Well, I love to see it, Jimmy, and I'm looking forward to following you through the journey and seeing, where this goes for you. And I have a feeling that it's going to get a lot better.
Yes. So what's next? I mean, obviously you've got this business now. Joe Rogan gave you a shout out in 2021. That had to be exciting. So.
It was exciting, and it was very good for our own reach and our sales. So we've been doing a lot of hiring, a lot of increasing our production capacity, which is great, especially right now. We were blessed to create jobs in 2020, created jobs in 2021. We're going to create more jobs in 2022, and just continuing that mission and looking to what are some of the other ways? How can we start to gather the science that has been created over the last few years, not just as anecdotes here, and here, but how can we really get people who are getting cold, not just with our product, but there are other products that have come into the market after ours, and other people out there who are still taking cold showers. And as this subculture grows, how can we gather and start to solidify even more of the scientific information and project that back out? Also looking at other products and things like that not only go along with our current flagship product, the ice bath, but also our greater mentality that we've developed through this process over how can we really help people learn to live natural lives in a very unnatural world. And that's something that, if that's something that we're all doing in these industrialized societies to some extent. We're living very unnatural lives in an unnatural world. And what are the ways that we can help facilitate, getting some of that natural resonance back to our bodies and our mentality?
We need a hashtag that all of us that are in this crazy subculture of cold therapy, like hashtag Team Cold or something like that, where we can all tag, Team Cold, and then you can find who all's doing it. Hey, I'm starting that trend today. Hashtag Team Cold. Go put it out there, you guys. But he is Jason Stauffer. Go follow him over on Instagram, Jason_Morozco. And of course, the Morozco Forge is what we've been talking about. Those of you who have not seen it, that's what it looks like. It's a beautiful tank and very elegant design, very easy to use. As a user, I was very pleased to see how easy it was. Morozco Forge over on Instagram, MorozkoForge, morozcoforge.com. And yeah, you're doing amazing work, dude. And I'm so grateful for your invention. It has personally helped me. And it's why I wanted to have you on here today, because whatever helps me, I like to get the word out to help my followers. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jimmy. Beautiful connecting with you, and so happy to continue to share in the journey.
Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
Have you experienced the dreaded keto flu? Did you know that most of these symptoms are actually due to your body dumping excess electrolytes? This is where Element comes in. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, with none of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Everyone needs electrolytes, especially those on low-carb diets, or if you practice intermittent or extended fasting, if you're physically active, or sweat a lot. Add Element today and see how much better you feel and perform. Use the URL drinklmnt.com/Jimmy.